Just leaving Lander at a run. I just got out of the corporations committee meeting. 2 long days, two days with lots of work. We'd start our committee meetings at 8:30 in the morning and finish up about 7:30 at night. It's 7:30 now, and I'm just leaving Lander. So lots of information, really good information, lots of good debate. We talked about everything from broadband to municipal elections and allowing county residents to vote in municipal elections and what that would look like. Had a lot of really good testimony. We talked about recall elections. We talked about the Panama Papers situation. I'll go ahead and update you on the Panama Papers situation because I know several of you have followed that. So Wyoming, immediately, the Secretary of State's office, as soon as it was reported that there was some shell companies going through registered agents here in the state of Wyoming, the Secretary of State's office immediately jumped on that and started doing an audit. Their audit found one registered agent that had some possible issues. They got that fixed in a hurry. Wyoming's corporate governance laws worked exactly as they're supposed to. So that was great. They did have one amendment that they wanted to put into statute. Ultimately, the committee decided not to adopt that amendment, as the general feeling in the committee was that it actually didn't. It wasn't a hole that we had in our corporate governance laws that we felt absolutely had to be filled. The amendment had to do with saying registered agents couldn't advertise anonymity. I cannot say that word. In the state of Wyoming, they couldn't advertise that Wyoming's laws are lax or anything like that. We just didn't feel that that was necessary. You know, Wyoming's laws, business laws are good. We're constantly ranked in the top states as far as a great state to start a business in, from big outfits like Forbes. So we're proud of that. Proud of the Secretary of State's office for the job they did and immediately finding the error and fixing it. So that was a good outcome. That was a good outcome for the state of Wyoming and something to be proud of. We talked municipal elections and county residents voting in them. I mean, that's a pretty wild topic. It's a good topic though, because we do have a situation, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there right off the bat, that the Wyoming Association of Municipalities were there to testify. They did a great job, represented themselves well. The president of the organization, Councilman Dixon, and vice president of the organization, Mayor Paul Brooks, right out of House District number 1, also testified, did a fantastic job, as did their executive director, Shelley Simonton. All of them represented their cities well. I did end up on a different page than they did, though. And my opinion is if a county resident owns property within the city limits, then I do feel that they should have the right to vote in those municipal elections, because those individuals elected are passing ordinances or regulations that can and will affect that individual, and they really have no say in that. We will be going over that. A little subcommittee was formed to study it, and rest assured, that subcommittee will not be paid. So we're not trying to soak the coffers here, guys, as legislators. That subcommittee will not be paid to study the issue, but they will study the issue and report back to the Corporations Committee on in September for our next meeting. And that subcommittee consists of Senator Kurt Meyer, myself out of House District 1, and Representative Byrd out of Cheyenne. So a good group of guys. We'll sit down and hammer out our differences and see if we can put something together for the Corporations Committee, and hopefully something that the Wyoming Association of Municipalities can get on board with. That might be a hard load to lift, but we're going to try. We talked to railroads, talked a lot about what's going on with the railroads currently in these economic downturn. They're really hurting from the coal situation, much like everybody else is. We knew that. We talked about broadband. We talked about recall elections. I can't remember if I updated you on recall elections, so I'll go ahead and do it again. We ultimately chose to have our Legislative Service Office staff draft what would look like an amendment to the Constitution to allow for recall elections. It's debatable whether or not our Constitution would allow for a recall election in statute. It is debatable, which means it could end up in court. So we chose ultimately, let's try to step forward, and I think it's a big win for those of you that want a recall election, to see what a constitutional amendment would look like to allow for recall elections. Sometimes you got to baby step these things, and this is one of those things. If it looks like it might pass, then it's entirely possible a legislator could bring a personal bill on recall elections at the same time. We got to be careful with that, though, because the constitutional amendment wouldn't be voted on until 2018 general election, and if we've already got it in statute, possibility to go to court exists. Don't want that. So that was good news. I'm a fan of recall elections myself, strictly on the premise that a lot of folks back home are big fans of it. If I'm doing a horrible job and you want to fire me early before the ballot, that should be your choice. So that was good. And it was just a ton of information, really good. A little bit of an update on the amicus brief. I did sign on to an amicus brief in regards to Judge Neely out of Pinedale. I updated you in the last video about that and what's going on. So I signed on with an amicus brief on that in support of Judge Neely, and not in support of the Judicial Commission on Conduct and Ethics. I really think it was a goof up on their part, and I want it fixed. I'm hoping that we can lend some support to Judge Neely and she retains her position, because, and I will reiterate this because this is the most important part, I do not believe that you can refuse service to constituents. You can't do that. Judge Neely did not do that. Judge Neely was never asked to marry anyone, and that's the issue for those of you that didn't watch the last video, is Judge Neely told a reporter that she didn't want to perform a gay marriage. And so she's being removed from the bench for it, for stating something, for saying something. It still blows my mind that and I've been reading a lot of comments online. That news story broke, and it broke big. I read a lot of comments online, and people are infuriated at Judge Neely for denying the right to someone, and she did not. Read the brief. Read into the story. She did not. She was contacted by a reporter. She gave her opinion, and that was it. She did not deny service to anyone. This is not like the Kentucky clerk situation, where the Kentucky clerk banned her or kept her employees from being able to write out a marriage certificate. That was not the case at all. I do not support what the Kentucky clerk did, because she kept her other employees from doing it. If she wasn't comfortable doing it, this is my opinion on the Kentucky clerk, she wasn't comfortable writing out that marriage certificate because of her religious beliefs, I don't have a problem with that. But her keeping her employees from doing that were comfortable doing it, is where she really goofed up. Did she deserve jail time for it? I don't think so. Not in my opinion. I think that it could have been handled a much better way. She was wrong. Judge Neely is innocent. She did not keep anyone from being married. She didn't stop anyone from doing anything. It's not even in her purview to marry people on a normal basis. It's a wild deal. And I hope it works out for Judge Neely out of Pinedale. And we'll be pulling for her. And I know a lot of folks in House District 1 will be pulling for her too. It's one of those deals. And I would like to mention, there's a bunch of legislators on the amicus brief. A lot of the guys and gals that I work with down in Cheyenne, but there's some former legislators on there, and one of those former legislators that's on there is former Representative Mark Semlich out of House District 1. So, that being said, House District number 1, your representation and your former representation agree that Judge Neely did in fact do nothing wrong, and she should not be removed from her seat. That's about it. We're getting a little bit of sprinkle of rain over here at the base of the Wind Rivers, and I'm going to be driving late into the night and heading back to work early in the morning. Once again, proud to represent you in House District 1, and I'm working my butt off for you, and I hope that that I do a good job of it. And I hope that I can earn your guys' vote this summer once again during the primary and general election. I'll keep going at it. Oh, one more thing. I mentioned Mayor Paul Brooks was there, but I also saw Sam Yemington, and those of you might recognize that name. He lives down in Cheyenne now. He was there to testify also. Did a fantastic job. He's a good guy. I like Sam. Grew up with him a little bit. Anyhow, if you guys have any questions or you want some more information on certain topics, hit me up, please. Until then, my next video will come April 23rd or 24th, or I'm sorry, May 23rd or 24th for the Agriculture Committee meeting. That's going down in Torrington. Big happenings there, really big happenings going on with the Ag Committee. The #1 priority for the Ag Committee, as handed down by the Management Council, is to study food freedom and ways to expand it. We'll be seeing that on the second day. We're also going to look at forest health and how we can put in statute a permanent place for the funding of the pine beetle program to continue to keep our forests healthy. And lots of great responses from Crook County. Commissioner Whalen is jumping in. Lots of people interested in helping out, which is what makes our corner of the state the best part of the state. So with that, I'll leave you. Once again, if you have any questions, please post them or call me or contact me in any way, and I will try to get back to you as quick as possible. Thank you much.